Hello, Grace Connection Services, Jonathan's Refuge, all of our faithful followers from our nonprofit and donors. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and probably a bunch of newcomers to our organization. So, my name is Jonathan Brown. I go by JB, and I'm the chairman and president, founder of a nonprofit 501c3 registered that allows us to change the world one person at a time. And you're about to learn a little more about what that is today that we do. We specialize in helping men come off of the street, coming off of the street from being homeless, and coming out of prison and being put back into society. And our organization is one of the largest mental health providers in our county that specializes in that. I'm here today with one of our esteemed colleagues and one of my favorite team members in our organization, Tiye Shaw. Tiye, thanks for coming today.
I appreciate you having me.
And I know you have some questions that you want to get answered, so I'm here to answer them. So let's play ball.
All right. My first question is, JB, why are you walking from Mexico to Canada 2,650 miles on the PCT?
Why am I walking 2,650 miles? I have no clue. I shouldn't say that. I'm walking 2,650 miles because we are raising money for the next Jonathan's Refuge. So what is Jonathan's Refuge? For those that don't know, it's not a men's home. It's a home of hope. Men's homes, there is a men's home right next to my Jonathan's Refuge that I currently have in the city of Marysville in the state of Washington. The one next to our home has 17 men living in this one house. The same size house as our men's house, except our men's home of hope has 4. So it's not cattle cars. You see, these men are coming out of prison or off the street or some major life change in their life, and they're coming in to try to find hope and a new lease on life. And this is what we specialize in. The problem is, Tiye, we have thousands of men coming out of prison right here in Washington, and there's not enough men's homes for them to get into. And I saw a need that is desperate, because they say that that you go to prison to get reformed, to be corrected, corrections, right? The whole name of Department of Corrections is that you went to prison and you were corrected in your behavior so that when you got back out, you could be a productive citizen in society. Unfortunately, our Department of Corrections doesn't actually correct people, and they struggle to be able to do anything to truly help the actual person get back into society in an even keel and give them a fighting chance to survive the gangs, the drugs, and all the horrible things that are out there that can be traps to get us back into that world. For those that don't know, I spent a good portion of my early years of my youth in very violent gangs, the underworld, working with the cartels and such of. I don't want to get into too much because of legalities, but family business, if you follow me. And it's hard when you are an ex-con to get a new lease on life. And so our organization has created a system, and it works. Our nonprofit, Jonathan's Refuge, just to give everyone an idea, in the state of Washington, Tiye, about 70% of the people that come out of prison go back in. It's called a recidivism rate, 70%, right? It's astronomical when you think about it. Our recidivism rate for the last 2 years is at 0%. Now, you could argue, well, yeah, but you only got one home. That's true. But over time, it doesn't matter if you have one home, because you got a time of history. In 2 years, we've not lost one guy back to prison. It's not because we're some miracle workers. It's simply, I have a system that works. I came from the street. I came through the prison system. I know what the con is thinking, what he's doing, and what the bad parts of his thought patterns are, and the good aspirations of his thought pattern. And I know how to interact with these men so that they can't pull strings and manipulate like they do with others. So I have trained our staff to be the same way. So our staff just sees it all. We have doctors of psychology and psychiatry on our board. We have all kinds of clinical clinicians involved in the therapeutic aspects. We have one of the largest mental health therapy organizations in the state of Washington, specifically in the private practice. We have over 120 clients in just the Snohomish County office. This organization is impacting. We get our men out of prison. We put them through a program that allows them to be trained and learn how to operate as an adult in a productive citizen in the U.S. And we deliver a 0% recidivism rate. Now, Ty, I know I can't keep that up forever. Eventually, we'll lose a guy back to prison. It's going to happen. But what we need is to raise money for another Jonathan's Refuge. We're looking to buy a $1 million property so that we can house all of these people. Right now, they're homeless. So when a guy gets out of prison, he's sitting on the street, living in his car. I promise you, if he has no other options, here's what he's thinking. When he sees you drive by, I could rob that person. And he follows you home, stalks your house, and robs you. I'm trying to stop that, and we can do it. I just need a little help from you. Our organization makes a ton of money. We can afford all the monthly payments on the mortgages that we have right now. We just need help getting the next property because we're a nonprofit, a 501c3. They require usually 30 to 40% down. Our property we're looking to buy, as Ty, you know, it's about $1 million. And it's going to have a multi-use faceted. This will be the main intake house when a guy comes out of prison that he goes to. And then from that, we disperse him to the other projects. So on that same property, we're going to have little tiny houses so that some of our clients who are long-term, we can put them in their own tiny house. Maybe they have a mental health issue that they really can't interact with people. So we'll have a private area for those. People that are coming out of prison, they want to be working. So we call that a working man's house. So certain rooms and certain parts of the property will be for the working men. There's others who can't work physically, emotionally, there's issues they have. So they need to be in an area of people that are trying to get back into the workforce and what have you. But that's why I'm walking to Mexico, 2,650 miles.
Well, my last question is, how can what's your why?
What's my why? It's a tough question. I was hoping we'd be able to get this done in 5 minutes, but that opens it up. What's my why? You don't know my whole story, but when I was 7 years old, my dad was the pastor of a church at Bethel, Assemblies of God in Redding, California, one of the largest churches in America. And I was playing, as the pastor's kid would, in the sanctuary, had a couple thousand members. And the elder of the church, that was the wealthiest man in town, and it ended up that he had a really sick side to himself. And so I was playing on the thing one day, and I just turned my head, and I remember as I turned, I saw this dark thing, and it was his fist. And he just beat the entire side of my face here until this was all shattered. All these ribs were broken, except for the bottom one on my left side. And he walked me into my father's office, and he threw me down. And he said, "You tell that damn kid to stay off my altar. And the next time I find him there, he's going to get a bigger ass whooping. And by the way, make sure he has the same color socks on his shoes when he comes to the church." Because I had 2 different colored socks. My father, the man left, slammed the door. My father ran over to me. I'm a 7-year-old child. What do you do? You're 7 years old. So I was crying, I was bawling, I was in a lot of pain, I'm bleeding, I'm broken. And my dad, my birth father, he looked at me and he said, we have 2 options here. The first option is we can call 911. Well, back then you didn't call 911, but back then I think you called the sheriff's department, if I remember correct. It was the phone number you had to call. And we can get the police involved, but he's got family in the police department, and he's the wealthiest man in town. They're never going to prosecute him. So that's the one option, but if we do that, the church will split. We'll lose about a couple thousand people. So at 7 years old, I was forced to make a decision. Or he said, you can just tell him you were playing on the scaffolding, that we were building a new part of the church, which we had a sanctuary being extended, and just say you fell. So I took one for the team at 7 years old, and we just went into the hospital and said I fell off the scaffolding. That was the first time I needed a refuge. I needed a place that I could find safety. A few years later, we moved. We were in Atlanta, Georgia. My family sent me back to California. We got to California on a vacation for 30 days. I was between the ages of 10 and 11. It was a summer vacation. I went with my uncle and aunt, cousins on a trip with my little sister. I was a jerk. I wasn't a nice kid that year. I was very angry about a lot of things, and I was mean to my cousin, and it really hurts that I said mean things to my cousins back then, because they were like sisters and brothers to me, so I loved them, but I was lashing out at them. So I got into a fight with my aunt and uncle, and 10, 11 years of age, I said, well, I'll run away. And they said, well, fine, there's the road. So I walked away. I know nowadays some of you hear that and you're like, what? An adult would let a 10-year-old just walk off in the middle of the state on an interstate? Different time, we're talking back in the early 80s. So it's a different time, but yeah, that's what happened. So I started hitchhiking. I got picked up by an 18-wheeler, and we were headed back to the hometown from where we were camping. I was headed back, and this guy picked me up in his 18-wheeler, and he locked the door, and I got this creepy vibe, man. At just 10 to 11, I just knew things were not going to go well. And I see him turning his blinker on, and he's about to turn left, and that's not the way back to Susanville. And so I said, Susanville's that way. And he says, yeah, I know. As he pats my knee, just like that. And he says, but don't worry, I'll take good care of you. Right then I saw another 18-wheeler driving. And I always remembered people used to say truckers are good people. So I just took the shot, and I unlocked his door, jumped out the car. The 18-wheeler was doing about 30, 35 because it was slowing down to turn. And I just tucked and rolled and jumped out of the truck. The other trucker saw it and he stopped. Well, the trucker who was trying to kidnap me that I got a hitch with, he ended up taking off. And that other trucker, he reported them, and but I ended up walking all the way to Susanville. I got to the town. I was brokenhearted. I was devastated. I called my birth father up in Atlanta, begged him to let me fly home. And he says, sorry, man, your ticket's good in 30 days. Suck it up, buttercup. And one of my favorite sayings, but right saying, wrong time. But I had to figure out what to do and live on the street for 30 days. So I found some kids late at night that saw me living on the street, and they're like, hey man, you want to come with us? And we're going to a party. And I was starving, I was hungry, and I was like, I'll do anything, I need food. So they offered me a beer, my first beer, and I had a beer and I was drunk, and I passed out, and I woke up in the morning covered with feces. They pooped all over me, they urinated all over me, they other bodily functions all over me, and I woke up with that. So I decided to kill myself. So I walked to this bridge in the town that I grew up in Susanville, and I knew that anyone that jumped in the specific place died every time. And so I jumped off the bridge right backwards, and don't know how I missed it until years later we found out the city moved the rocks that were under the water. But I didn't know that. And so when I survived the fall, I was angry. So I was like, oh, hell no, I ain't going to miss twice. So I climbed back up, and I was going to hit it twice. And I go to jump again, and there's this crazy homeless looking guy running. And he's screaming, dude, hold on, man, hold on, dude. And I'm like, oh God, let me just kill myself before this guy gets to me. And he got to me, I'm like, what? What is wrong with you? He's like, are you trying to kill yourself or something? I was like, matter of fact, I am. Would you leave me alone? And he's like, just give me 1 minute, man. If you give me 1 minute, brother, I promise you I'll leave you alone. And if you want to jump, you can jump. And I was like, fine, you got 1 minute. Go. He goes, dude, I wanted to kill myself too in this town many years ago, decades ago. I was a homeless man, and I went to walk in front of an 18-wheeler right on Main Street. And this dude, his name was Pastor Brown. He grabbed me by the arm, and he threw me into the street with him, and he saved my life. And I looked at the guy, and I'm like, oh God, please tell me it's not. Did you say Pastor Brown? He goes, yeah, man, he was a cool dude. I'm like, was the dude's name Ed Brown? And they're like, the guy looks at me and goes, how'd you know? And I was like, that's my dad. I grew up in a small town, okay? And he's like, no way, man, your dad saved my life, dude. And I'm like, but you're still homeless? And he's like, yeah, by choice. I'm now the street pastor around here, so my job is to take care of the streets in this town. And he looks at me and he says, I know this is going to sound weird, man, but I'm going to be your street dad. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what that means, but I don't need no street dad. And he's like, I'm just going to look out for you, kid. I'll show you where to sleep. I'll give you the best spots. I'll tell you when to sleep. It's during the day. We stay up at night. That's when the danger happens. And for the next month, he took care of me. And then I flew home to my family. I needed a refuge then. And then at 12 and a half, I started one of the largest drug rings in Atlanta, Georgia. I was illegally using the church's van to transport drugs and things of all kinds of guns all over the town. I was using my family's vehicles. I was using my dad's connections. And because of my business prowess had been raised by the people that I was raised by, I was a very smart kid. And I built one of the fastest growing drug empires in a huge apartment complex. And my dad and mom never even knew. I needed a refuge then because I was getting beat up every day in this ghetto, and I was being just plummeted, and I was tired of being beaten. I was beaten at 7, and I was tired of it. I was beaten in that town at 10 to 11, and now at 12 and a half, here I am, 12-ish, 11 and a half, 12-ish, and I'm tired. I'm tired of being the guy bullied, beat up, and so I said to hell with that, and I became one of the most violent people to make sure that no other violent person would ever harm me again. I became the monster in the closet that scared all the other monsters. And it turned into a huge gun shootout one night at my family's residence, and they opened up 2 MAC-10 machine gun Uzis on my family's home, trying to kill me. And they didn't kill me. My sisters were running into my parents' room. My dad, I saw him running down the stairs carrying his little .22 pistol like this with no bullets in it. He never had bullets in his gun. And he's like, what are you doing, Dad? He's like, I'm going to go down there and wave my gun out there. They'll stop. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So I grab my 9mm Model 92 Beretta and I come running down there. And as he's about to open the door, you hear him out there just spraying the house. I dove and shoved my dad into a wall, and the door opened because he was opening it. And they literally pelleted the door, so he'd have been dead. I was on the ground and I just pulled out my gun and started firing. I already had a couple guys already out there that were firing from other angles in the place. This was a massive shootout. When it was done, and for legal reasons we can't go into what happened, but when it was done and the smoke was cleared, I stood up and I got all my guys out there, and I'm telling them what to do. And these are men who are not children like me. They're adults. These are 17 to 24-year-old. One guy was even, the oldest was in his late 20s, but most of them between 17 and 24 were their age brackets. And I'm the boss. And I'm out there telling them, all right, you get this, you get that. We got certain chemicals that we rub on our hands when we do any kind of a gunshot or shootout, because the GSR, the residue, the gun smoke residue actually will get on you from the actual gunshot. So cops can test your hands, and if they see that you fired a gun, they can link that and use that to prosecute you. So I'm sitting here orchestrating this whole thing before the cops come, because I know we got about another 15 minutes. It was a ghetto. The police don't care about the ghetto. So we had a little extra time. And I looked at my dad and I said, just shut up and do what I say and tell the cops what I tell you to say, and this will all be fine. And it was. And he told them what I said to say, and it all went away as just a shootout. And the next couple months, we then moved to Maine. I needed a refuge. We then got to Maine, and it got worse. I ended up getting into the big boys leagues. Instead of just being a big street gang, I ended up getting into the family business, working with cartels and mobs, as people call them, the mob. But I mean, I don't like that word, but the family business, definitely all underworld, all illegal, all violent. And I ended up taking over an entire state for this organization and ran the whole thing. You can see the tattoo here that says the Irish Beast. I made a name for myself so ferocious that when people heard the name, they were scared of just the name. That's what I wanted. I didn't want another person to hurt me. So I would hurt people so bad that the thought that the Irish Beast was coming to visit you would make a person want to move out of the country. And I hate to say it, I did such a good job that now at 50, going all the way back to my teens, I just took my wife to visit family back there not too long ago. And I saw a man who I broke his leg with a baseball bat, shattered his knee completely, just to collect a debt. And that man ran, hobbling, 30 some odd years later, because he saw my face. And that breaks my heart that I was such a violent person, and that I just wanted to be safe. I didn't want to be beat up anymore. I was tired of being picked on. I was tired of being shit on. I was tired of being just everyone's goo on their foot. I wanted to just be treated like a normal person was. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be cared for. And I had no refuge. So you ask, well, what's my why? That's part of my why. But my other why is flash forward. I left that world because of a woman who became my adopted mother. And Mama Kelly, of course, she's gone now. She's in heaven. But she was the reason I left that world. There was a Sunday afternoon, and I just assumed she didn't know anything about my illegal activities, if you will. And I remember the Sunday, she just looked at me one day, and she asked me to sit next to her at the seat at the church, and I did. And she gave me a hug, and she said, honey, I want to figure out how we get that little boy back, because that little boy is who everyone needs to meet. He's a sweet child who just wants to help people, but he's lost. And however the words came out, they seemed to me to like melt everything inside of me, all that hardened shell. And I ended up leaving the whole world behind me, and I did. I went into the business world, became very successful, made millions of dollars, had the Ferraris, had the yachts, all that good stuff, traveled the globe, blew all my money, lost it, made millions again, did all that, famous in my little corner of the world, you know, big fish in a little sea in my corner. And then I started preaching and building my ministry. You know, I work with the hardened people, guys who are ex-cons who are murderers. One of the men that I helped has got over 200 assassinations under his belt as one of the most well-known sicarios for the cartel in Mexico. And yet after a whole life of violence, I've been able to convince this person to leave the cartel and start a whole life. Guy's got a $5 million, I think it was a $4 or $5 million bounty on his life. I was able to help relocate him to a place in the world with his family and start over, and give him a chance to find peace and to help stop him from killing other people. There's now brings me to the second part of my why, and that's people like you, Ty. I met Ty, and he was living at what's the term?
Adult family home.
An adult family home. And they just take your whole check, give you $20 at the end of the month, and then they force feed you whatever they want to cook for you, and they shut your door, and you're just on your own. That's life. And I asked them to come to a conference, Tony Robbins conference, that I paid for. My friend Tony was putting on, and we paid for everyone to come to it. But when I went to meet Ty, Ty, do you mind showing him your hands?
Nope, I got nubs.
He's got nubs instead of hands.
Call me Ty Rex.
Ty Rex. And that's because Ty had a break when he was 19.
19, yep.
He ended up taking his life, attempting to, and he doused himself in gasoline and lit the match. And when you think about how painful you had to be in, it instantly brought me back to my pain. And that's what makes me wake up in the morning and push, because of people like me and you, us, we. So my why is you. My why is a little boy that was hurt. Another little boy that was hurt. And there's so many of those out there. And that's my why. Sorry it took so long to answer it.
That's fine. How can our viewers help donate to our cause?
Get online on the website. There's places for you to punch in donate to the cause. There's going to be some sort of a little symbol there talking about a mountain, and zeros at the bottom at the Mexican border, the U.S.-Mexican border. I'm walking from there up the Pacific Crest Trail, 2,650 miles. And don't know if we're going to make the whole way, but we're going to give it our best gusto. And we can donate money and say, hey, I'd like to donate $25. I'd like to donate $50. I'd like to donate $5,000. I'd like to donate $50,000. We're buying a house in October. The next property will be purchased in October of this year. And we're looking at $1 million cost for the property that we're looking to get into. So for $1 million, we're going to need between $300,000 and $400,000 as a down payment. And that's what we're looking to raise. So we could sure use your support, because what we're doing, folks, we're not just giving a place of hope. There's other people in our organization other than Ty. There's people who we take and they were living on what we call SSI, Social Security Insurance, I think it is. Disability. It's not a physical disability. It's people that have issues with, maybe they were in prison too long. They have mental health issues. There's all kinds of issues that stop them from being able to be productive in society. Well, I am disabled. I was dyslexic. I had all these impediments. I had all that crap too, but I stopped making excuses and I found a way to get around that and become an actual producing person in society. And so we take people and help them get off of food stamps, SSI, things like this. We find them a career, we find them jobs, we get them cars, we get them housing, we get them employment. And then we help them to learn how to fish so they no longer have to ask for help from you, society. See, that's the difference between us and everyone else. You can go give money to the Red Cross. The CEO and his executive team, they have like $12 million a year in annual salaries. One of the cool things that our organization does, Ty, that you're well aware of, if Bob and Mary watching this right now donate $100 to the new Jonathan's Refuge, $100 of that $100 goes to the actual purchase of the property. Not one penny of anything goes to a payroll, salary, any cushion jobs for myself or anybody. My annual salary in this company is zero. I'm not here for the money. My wife does need a salary. She's our CEO of the company. She makes a whopping $1,500 a month. We have 2 firms that audit the books for our nonprofit so that our people that donate can feel rest assured that, for example, Ty's hands, he needs adapters for the car, prosthetics, and needs these adapters. We've got people that donated money for that. 100% of that money is sitting in his account for him to use. Not to be used for other people, to get a nice new Mercedes for the company, to buy a new house for the company, for their executives and stuff. No, the money goes to the cause. We're not one of those massive budget things like the Red Cross and every other organization out there. And I'm not dogging the Red Cross or Salvation Army or any of them. But I'm sorry, those organizations, the nonprofits, have really drifted from their original cause and what they were founded to do. And so we are changing the world right now in a way that we can make a real big impact. We can lower our crime rate. Instead of them robbing you, raping you, beating you, killing you, let's help fix the problem. Forget waiting for the government. The government is us, the people. So help me help them. Join hands with us. Donate. Call the website. Call the phone number. Get on the website. Email us. Get in touch with me. Follow us on the trail. Whatever you can do, we could sure use. We take the men from the refuge out to the mountains. We bought a yacht so that we could take them out to the ocean here in Seattle. I don't know of any other organization that will spend tens of thousands of dollars to buy things like yachts to be able to take men that no one cares about in society out to the ocean. No one does that. No one cares to take them out to concerts. No other men's home takes all their people out to concerts, Christmas operas, plays, dramas. We take them to the arts of the world so that they can learn of the different aspects. So a guy who's only grew up in the ghetto listening to gangbanger music, right? We're going to broaden his horizon and take him to the opera. We're going to get him to open up and learn there's more things out there in the culture and in the arts and in the languages in the world. We can expand his horizon, expand his vocabulary, expand his hopes, expand his future and his opportunities. That's how they can help. We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Click on the buttons, get to the Facebook page, go to the YouTube channel, watch the videos, plug in. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you, Ty, for being here.
Thank you, JB. Thank you, audience.
Hello, and thank you all for watching today as we learn about who Ty Shaw is and his story. I have the pleasure of meeting this man last year in the beginning of the year.
It's been about that.
So 2023 at the very beginning, I think. Mm-hmm. And so he's been here for over a year, or was it 2022? No, it was 2023, right?
It's been about a year, a little bit more.
A little more than a year.
Yep.
So our organization, for those that don't know, we have one of the largest mental health private practices in Snohomish County, Washington. And we specialize in helping people find employment and housing that are dealing with disabilities. They're homeless, they're living in group homes, they're coming out of prison, out of shelters, things like that. Ty was I don't know how we ran into you. Do you remember how that came about?
Well, basically, I was living in an adult family home. They had really bad. Basically, I would describe it as a place of death. You just went there to die, and the food was atrocious. The people, they were kind, but they just didn't care, and they didn't care about the people that they were taking care of.
It's horrible. We got a call, so he called our organization. My wife, who's our CEO, and another lady who became your case manager, case specialist, was Shelly, I think. And Shelly's worked for me for off and on for 23 years or so. We've known each other for a long time. And she ended up, and Cece were telling me, you got to meet this guy, you got to meet this guy. And that week we had a conference with Tony Robbins. I ended up paying for all of our men at the Refuge and our employees and staff and team members to be involved in the Tony Robbins conferences. And we pay for all that and pay for all the expenses and cover all the fees and food and all that good stuff. So they kept, you got to meet this guy, and I'm busy. You know what I mean? We get, you know how it is. I'm pulling in 20 different directions. So finally, I was like, fine, I'll go meet him. So I drive over to this place, and it's like 20, 30 minutes, and I get there, and I knock on the door, and it's a group home, and he's there to greet me, and we go into his room and kind of shuts the door. And as you can see, he keeps his hands covered. Now, you can tell Ty's been burned in a fire if you look at his skin, okay? So I knew that he was already burned. What percentage of your body?
83%.
83% of his body was burned. And it was due to Ty trying to take his life. And we'll get into that in a moment. And I knew that much also. I just didn't know any of the details. I knew that he tried to kill himself by dousing himself with gasoline. And that at 19?
Yeah.
At 19. And you're 29, 30?
I'm 34 right now.
34. You look so young. 34 years old. So I get into his room. I ask him to tell me his story. He starts telling me his story. And first thing I notice is he keeps hiding his hands. So you guys know me. I'm the guy that's got the size 11 that's not afraid to say it like it is. So I just looked at him and said, what's up with the nubs? And Ty looks at me like, did you just say what's up with the nubs? And I'm like, yeah, what's up with the nubs, dude? What happened? And I don't think he's used to being talked to like that because he was shocked. And he started to tell me his story. And it was very heartbreaking. And me and Ty have a bond because when I was a young man, I was in a school with a kid who was also burned from head to toe with gas. And his name was Eric. And he's very famous. His dad kidnapped him. It was in the 80s, mid 80s. And it was all over the news. And unfortunately, Eric lived. I say unfortunately, right? Because in some parts, he wished he would have died. He did a few years later, but it was a very horrible death because he was a child. And so as all the skin, as you know, has been burned, if you grow, it just tears and shreds. And so it was a horrible death. And I loved this kid very much. But Ty got into my heart because of my friendship with this young boy from my childhood. So I met Ty. We had our words. I shared with him my story. Ty then says to me, I would love to come to the conference. So I said, come over and meet everybody. So you came over, and what happened?
Well, I did the conference, and I said...
What? I want to ask a question real quick. At the end of the conference, you said something.
I said...
When I asked you a question, what do you think? Do you remember what you said?
Yep, you said, what do you think of our organization and the people? And I said, I feel like I'm at home.
That just melted my heart because he said I felt like I was home. And I looked at him and I said, well, then do you want to move into Jonathan's Refuge? And he's like, absolutely. And that week we moved Ty into the Refuge. This is a man who no one cared to try to employ. No one cared to try to get him help. No one cared to do anything. And now at our organization, he is an assistant house manager at a Jonathan's Refuge. He oversees the billing for our nonprofit. Show him your hands, by the way, that you do all this work with.
I just do the
Do you mind if I...
No, not at all.
So-
I got these nubs, and I just volunteer my time and energy and nubs into...
And nubs.
Into...
I love you.
into helping this organization grow. And
Let me ask another question then. So you came into Jonathan's Refuge, you become an assistant house manager. What are some of the things that I require for the men to do in that house? Is there any activities that you guys are required to do maybe once a month with me? Go somewhere, climb some crazy, stupid, hard thing?
oh, hard, I wouldn't say hard, but climb some mountains, yeah. Maybe 5,000 feet,
Just 5,000 feet, no biggie.
maybe a little bit more. Sometimes a little bit less if it's an easy day.
Part of our program, as Ty knows, is I've learned if I can get people to the outdoors, I can change their entire life, because your body releases things like serotonins and other chemicals in your brain. So when you go out and just do a 1 hour walk every day, it actually changes your mental health. It changes your personality. You're happier, you're less stressed, you're able to produce more, you're able to be more productive, you're happier, you are liking life more. The more you like life, the more productive you are, it just continues to stack. If we don't get people out, they just keep stacking, but they're stacking negative. They're in their bedroom, they're depressed, they're looking at the television, they don't leave, and you're like, dude, no wonder why your life's depressing. I'd want to kill myself too. But Ty, he's got no hands, right? So I tell him we got to go climb mountains, and I'm thinking, my problem is I forget he has no hands. And I know you're saying, yeah, right, you don't forget. Ty, how many times have I said, could you hand me that, Ty?
Over 1,000,000 times.
I just don't see him with a disability. I see the man that can accomplish anything. So I'll give you an example. We climbed the high volcanoes here in Washington. You got Mount Rainier, you got Mount St. Helens, you got Glacier Peak, you got Mount Baker, and you got Mount Adams. 5 active volcanoes. Ty has been to our training mountains, Mount Dickerman, that's 5,700 feet up, straight up. It's called the Switchbacks from Hell, the 52 Switchbacks from Hell. And Ty did that. He almost died. He's sliding down he's got no hands to grab stuff. He takes and starts sliding a little on the snow, and I'm screaming to a couple of the other team members, we've got to get him. And he's trying to nub down with his elbows and his hands and stop sliding. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't lose Ty. So I figured when we were done, he'd be like, yeah, I don't want to go anymore. And the next month when we were, hey, we're going to do this trip. You don't have to go. Oh, what are you talking about? I'll be packed. So we go to Mount Baker. And Mount Baker is just 10,000. I think it's either 10,700 feet ballpark. Could be off by a few feet. And we're going up there, and I end up getting sick. I have bad health. As they say, I'm a dead man walking. So I get up there, and I'm puking. Remember that one? I was puking my guts out. You, me, Jesse, Timmy. We couldn't try to summit. I would put the whole team in danger. So we had to cancel halfway up there. We came back down. Had a great time. Camped. Enjoyed our time up there. You guys did, at least. And they took care of me very well. And then we came down. And it was like a week later, I went back with another group. And we were going to go, and the problem was the melt of the snow. So all the crevasses were now open. So you had to crawl down in crevasses and then go. This is major ice glaciers. You're going to go for a mile on a glacier that's got crevasses that are bottomless pits that you can't even see the bottom to. And we got to climb down and be on rope teams. And I'm like, Ty, I really can't take you. And he's like, but I can do it. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I want you to understand the passion that this man has found in himself. He could have done all this before he met us. Why didn't you?
I didn't have the opportunities.
Didn't have the opportunities. So what makes Jonathan's Refuge and Grace Connection Services so special in your opinion?
I would have to say the teams that GCS puts together, the expertise. They pay very close attention to the details of what they're doing when they go on the mountains, who they're bringing along with, so that everyone can be successful climbing to the top. And
we learned also that not everyone wants to be mountaineers, so we expanded our company, and as Ty knows, and we bought a yacht so that we can now take people out on the ocean, go yachting, we started buying kayaks and paddle boards. Now we got water sports added to it. And of course we have other things also, activities for people who are, who can't physically go to the mountains. We have activities for them. But it seems like Ty said, people that they quote unquote say can't go and do stuff. Ty doesn't have a car, but yet he has a car fund. We have helped fund with for him. He's got all of that ready. In the next 6 months, Ty's ready to buy his car, get his prosthetics for his hands so he can drive his car, get his driver's license, and all of this is funded through Jonathan's Refuge. But before we go into that, I hate to do this, Ty, to you because I know it's emotional. I want to hit you hard with why you tried to kill yourself. I know you told me it had to do something to do with your mother. And I would like you, if you could, to try to... What would make you try to douse yourself with gasoline to kill yourself?
Well, basically, to start off, it's a tough question. But basically, growing up, I had some trouble with my mother, and I was locked in a room for 8 years. And
8 years?
Yeah. So
locked in the room.
Yep, I'd come home from school, just acting out, kicking teachers because I wasn't functioning correctly at home. Come home, I'd be told to go straight to my room. If I was bad that day, I'd be stuck in the corner all day until night, usually skipping dinner and eating at school, that sort of thing. And so eventually I just, she went, and so,
So after the 8 years of that, you were now what, 19?
Nope, I was about 10 or so, 11. Okay. She said she's going to Europe, and she said you can either go with your dad or you can come with me to Europe. And so I said I'd like to go with my dad, who I've never met, I know nothing about, but I knew that it would be better than what I was going through and what I might go through traveling with her to Europe. And so that happened off and on. I'd go to my grandmother and my dad, go back to her, and that happened a few times. And eventually I gained the courage to tell my grandmother and my dad what was happening. And so my grandmother got custody of me, and I stopped going there. Put all that trauma behind me, everything. Was going through high school, did that, got my...
So you were living through the abuse and all of that. And then that's when your grandmother helped get involved.
Yeah, from 8 to 11 or so.
Okay.
Going back and forth, and then about 11 years old, I believe, I finally was at home with my grandmother and my dad. And so I put all that trauma behind me and completed high school by just the hair of my chinny chin chin. I had one hair, so you can imagine. And after high school, we weren't able to make enough to afford the apartment we were living in, so we had to move into our RV out in the middle of the desert, living in Phoenix, Arizona. And I went to go see my dad in prison, and my mother had sent him a letter, and that kind of brought up all those memories and trauma I was suppressing, and I had a mental breakdown. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what to think, had no guidance, no nothing. And so I would say I kind of snapped, and I just got super depressed. They had counselors that tried to come over to the house, and I'd just be sitting there laying in bed, and I didn't know how to help myself. And so my aunt said, it'd be a good idea. We have a couple choices for you. We can have you go to the hospital, or we can drive you, because we're worried about you. And so I had my aunt drive me to the hospital. They took my blood, put me in a cop car, and drove me over, handcuffs and the cop car, drove me over to a mental facility. It was, I describe it kind of like an insane asylum. And so I show up there, all the doors are locked. You're locked in just a small section. Doors are locked. There's about 10 rooms on one side, 2 people to each room. During the daytime, you can go out of your room, go to the day room, but you're just stuck in that one half of the building. And
I'm assuming they medicated you pretty good?
Oh, yeah. So I would be talking to them and telling them, yeah, I'm depressed. And they'd say, are you depressed? And I said, yeah, I'm depressed. I'm really depressed about what's going on. And they'd say, why, are you suicidal? No, I'm not suicidal. I don't have any desire to kill myself or anything like that. And they said, well, what if you had to think about it? I said, if I had to think about it, I'm sure I'd be able to figure something out. I mean, I'm a smart person. And so with that admission, they decided to put me on the highest amount of the newest antidepressant, Zoloft. They gave me a counselor that had dealt with suicide before, and he was a veteran. One of the stories he shared with me is some guy shooting himself in a motor pool, and they didn't find his body for a couple weeks. And so I always remember that, and that story, I believe, helped me not to shoot myself. But I kept having these trauma, and I was doing good for the 3 months that I was staying there. And they said, okay, the state can't take care of you anymore in here. You're out. There's a counselor. There's all these meds.
So
make sure you check in.
They kept you in there for 3 months.
Yeah, couldn't leave.
They doped you up.
Yeah.
And then they said, oh, you're at your limit. Kicked you out.
Yeah.
They gave you a bag of drugs and said, check in with us.
Yep. And when I came out of my room, I had this big smile on my face I couldn't wipe off. I had imagined it's something kind of like meth, because I just couldn't wipe the smile off my face. I wanted to go out and be happy and energetic and interact with everyone and be funny and stuff. And everyone had the smile on their face because they knew what was up. And so
now you're out. How old are you?
I'm about 18. I'm about 19 years old at this moment.
So then what was the point where you decided to gash yourself?
Well, I was, so I continued this counseling. I was taking the medication, and then I just slowly started to get kind of overwhelmed, having my counselor tell me to come home with my problems, write them down, think about it, and then take it back to him. And just that, trying to bring those two different worlds and crossing them and combining them, I don't know what it was, but I'd forget to take my medication, and I'd try to take it again, and 2 days forget it, try to take it the next time I could remember, forget for another 2 days, and then 5 days, and going up and down this roller coaster, my mental psyche just went down the tube, and I got so depressed, and I didn't know how to talk to my counselor to tell him what was going on. I didn't know how to talk to anyone about what was going on and what I was going through. And so one day I was supposed to go and see him, take my notebook with the things I was supposed to write down. And I guess it was just too much for me. And I seen a can of gas on the side of the porch there for my go-kart. And I said, I gotta end this. I can't live through this, and I can't do this. I have this guy on my left and my right saying, you'll never be able to be helped by your counselor, and all this negative thoughts. And but looking back on it now, I realize everyone has these negative thoughts, and talking to someone, even if you don't know how, will just begin the process and help snowball recovery, which I wish I knew how to talk to my counselor. I wish he would have helped me to figure out how to talk to him about how my medication was doing, how I was doing. But it was, go home, write down your problems, come back and see me.
So it was an assembly line.
Basically, yeah.
Just, they're spitting out the same stuff. So now you've doused yourself with gasoline and you decide to light the match.
Yeah.
Every time I think of it, it just breaks my heart. If you guys know him like I do, I work with him every day. He's one of my favorite climbing partners. Tiye is not just a faithful team member in our company. He's not just an assistant house manager. He's my friend. And he will always be my friend. I look forward to his future, his life, who he's going to marry, what little Tiye juniors are going to run around someday. But the thought of that is just so unbearable. So I'm sorry to have to ask these questions, but I have to. So you've lit yourself on fire. When you woke up, you were in a hospital.
In a hospital.
You were in a coma.
4-month coma.
4 months.
Drug-induced, yeah.
It's drug-induced. And what did it cost to put you back together?
They said $6.6 million, not counting all the years and years after that 4 months. They airlifted me from the desert to Maricopa County, which I am so thankful for that hospital and those people. And they worked tirelessly to help me.
How long after you went through that experience did you move to Washington?
I'd have to say about 5 or 6 years later.
So about 25 years of age, roughly, mid-20s?
Mm-hmm.
And then you started to live your life here, got into the group home.
Yeah, we came up here, we're homeless, dealing with trauma at home with other family members. And my aunt said, I have a job opportunity up in Washington. Do you want to come with us? And I said, sure. And she said, find the safest place in Washington that I could raise the kids and we could be happy. And Marysville was one of those places that I found that at the time, I believe it said one of the safest places in the country.
Nice.
And so I told her about it, and she said, okay, let's go. And we came up here, didn't have a game plan. We're homeless for the first, I'd say 6 months or so, trying to get funds for a house, and finally got a house. And then one day...
So you were saying that you saw the guy who was mowing his yard and it looks like he's renting homes and...
Yep, he was mowing his yard. I could tell that he had bags under his eyes, so he's probably doing drugs. And so I talked to him, said, is it okay if I come over and shower and use the bathroom? He said, yeah, you got to pay the gal upstairs $5. And so that went on for a couple weeks, few weeks. And eventually I said, how much do you rent for one of these rooms? And I forget how much it was, maybe $500, $600 under the table. And so I was living there, doing that, paying him rent, and it was a trap house, and everyone was smoking meth every day.
Were you?
No. When they would ask me, I'd sit there and just act dumb and be like, have you seen my dad? And
So you avoided it.
Yep, and I just walk right out of the room. And
so when did you leave that situation and get into the group home?
Well, after living at the trap house where they did meth and heroin and fentanyl, I got sick and my health declined, so I went to the hospital for 30 days. And after that, they put me in a group home. The group home was good, but the food that they would buy was all the cheapest food that you can buy from the store. And eating that, I would start to get sick again, and they put me on.
I'm going to interject real quick because a lot of the viewers might not know this. So with Tiye's, the burns and the fire, his body has been through a massive trauma. He can't eat normal food like you and I. We can just walk out and most people can just go to a store and buy anything, right? He has to literally eat simplistic aspects, like one of the staples in his diet is broccoli. And I'm not kidding. That's like he'll have a whole plate of broccoli. That's dinner. What was dinner? Oh, I had cool 2 plates of just broccoli. And I'm like, oh, God. But I'm not making fun of him. That's Tiye's diet has to be specific. There's certain chemicals in foods that I've seen his whole skin turned glowing red like it's on fire because of those chemicals. So that's what he's talking about.
And so I asked the state to have the home change my diet, and they were having problems. They didn't like that. It was costing them too much money. And so they said, oh, there's another group home that would be able to afford these things for you so that you can have a healthier way to live. And that was a lie. All their food was just the cheapest food, full of all this sugar and all this stuff that processed
chemicals.
Food.
Was that the place that we finally met at?
Yep.
Okay.
And that place I would describe as being a place of death.
It seemed like it, to be honest with you. When I walked in, I only saw 2 people, and they looked like they were waiting for the morgue to show up and pick them up.
Yep. And while I was gone, going to the Clean and Free Convention in Shoreline for Narcotics Anonymous, because one of my personal demons is dealing with a weed addiction. I don't deal with any other addiction, not even alcohol. I've learned and watched all the other people around me just get messed up on it, and they get stuck in the gutter. But I'd have to say marijuana and apple fritters are one of my...
That's what I love about it. We go from serious trauma to apple fritters. For those that don't know. So, when Tiye came, it was all too good to be true, right? He's this amazing person. No matter what you ask Tiye, he's like, absolutely, I'll tackle that for you. Just positive attitude. And he's like, because I'm known as Mr. Positive. So you tell me stuff's bad, I don't see problems. I just see opportunities. So this rubs off on him a little. And all of a sudden, he's Mr. Positive. And he doesn't see problems, but opportunities. It's hilarious. But the man started living that. And I'm sitting there going, God, one of these days, we're going to find out what his demon really is, because it takes time, right? We all have our demons, Mine's the traffic. God forbid you get me in a traffic. That's my demon, right? So Tiye, all of a sudden, one day the guys come over and they said, hey, they call me Rev. They said, hey, Rev, we figured out Tiye's got an addiction. And they were serious. And I'm like, oh my God, no, not Tiye. He's been here for months. What was it? And the Jesse goes, Rev, I bought a box of apple fritters. It was like 4 or 6?
6.
6 apple fritters. Apple fritters, right? 6. He takes and he puts them on the counter and says, hey, Tiye, I remember you said something. You liked fritters, apple fritters. I got you some on the counter. So he comes back out like 5 minutes later.
6 minutes later.
6 minutes later. Sorry. 6 minutes later. All 6 of them were gone. He has no hands. How did he do it? He just devoured the whole box.
That's why they call me T-Rex. Tyrex.
And then, I'm not exaggerating, at this last year's Christmas party, he brought 2 boxes of apple fritters. So now we always joke, Tiye, have you had 2 apple fritters today? Because if so, you can't drive. Oh, okay. So now we got to the apple fritter addiction. And you've done good with your problems of battling marijuana. You've been overcoming those things.
Yeah.
And you then moved into the Refuge right after the conference.
Mm-hmm.
That getting up in your face, was that hard to deal with someone like me? That's just like, was it a shock or?
Yes, I wasn't used to it, and it was something new, and I kind of had to step back and be like, whoa, what? And it helped me come to the realization that I have a disability. Yeah, I like to tell myself I don't have any disability. I can do anything anyone can do.
Right.
And so, yeah, answering that question was kind of tough. But,
okay. Let me ask this question then. So now we've got you to the Refuge. You've been thriving, and you've been striving for success in many areas, and then you've been thriving in other areas and hurting in others. Schooling was something that you had a hard time with in the college. You went to one college and took too many courses, is what we came to believe, and your understanding at least that we heard from you. And now let's look at Tiye now. Okay, so you flash forward. Are you going to school?
Going to school at Everett Community College.
Everett Community College. Congratulations. What
Thank you.
What are you working towards right now?
My bookkeeping certificate.
Okay. So he's plugged in over there to get his bookkeeping certificate. One class. Keep going to get that AA and accounting and bookkeeping, what have you.
Yeah.
Tiye's got dreams. Tiye's got aspirations. Tiye wants to. He came to us, and this is his firm. This isn't my firm. This is our firm. And he's now pitching his ideas. If you go on our website, www.gcs.org, all that's this young man's building. That is him. So the website you just went to watch this story is this man building it. And it's his passion. The logo, it's him doing it. And he nubs away at it. And me and him make fun of ourselves, my disability and his disability, and we laugh at the rest of the world. And they don't see us as anything that could tackle them, but they have no clue what ferocious lions we really are, right?
Yeah.
Except we're ferocious for changing people in a positive way. Life is tough, life is hard, life is not easy, but I promise you one thing, like Tiye learned, if you are serious about changing, we can help you do it. Let me ask you this question. Talk to the people out there. I want to ask 2 questions. The first one, you're going to be speaking to the people who are watching this that are going to say, how can I help, right? I see this story of this young man who was so desperate to try to fix his world that he tried to kill himself with gas. Living from homeless, poverty, drug trap houses, and all this trauma. How can they help? We know they can help by doing different things, donating money and things like that. But what would you say to that person watching right now that's like, I want to help, you know what we are trying to do this year in getting our next project. How would you suggest they help us? And what would you say to that viewer that's thinking right now about helping?
Definitely go for it. This is one of the only nonprofit organizations that I hear about that is changing people's lives, and not only mine, but everyone that they touch and connect with. If you hear his name, if you hear our voices, then we're making a difference in your lives, whether you know it or not.
Mm.
And we're going to continue to make a difference in everyone's life.
That's deep, what you just said. I've got to interrupt you. That's really important. The way you said that, if you don't even know it, we're impacting your life. Ty one day realized he helped a person. I shouldn't even say that. He didn't even realize he helped him, actually. I told him he was helping a person by his own story. This person wanted to kill themselves. He already saved a person from killing themselves. All they heard was Ty's, not even the full story. They only heard a little part of his story. And the person didn't want to take their life anymore. They don't know Ty. They don't even hang out with Ty. They don't have no connection with Ty. They just heard his story through me sharing it at an event. And this person doesn't want to kill themselves because they saw his story through me telling your story. And the men that we can help stop from criminal activity, from violence, from the drugs, we are lowering our society's bills. We are lowering the amount of money they have to spend in the rehabs and the welfare and the food stamps and all of the things, and the system itself being so inundated with people that are just being shoved, like you said, into a room, two people in a room, drugs to dope them up, and then kick them out on the street and say, call us when you need help. Mm-hmm. And we're stopping that. This man is linked arms with this organization. Now, he doesn't call it arms. What do you call it?
I call it a fin.
Why do you call it a fin, Ty?
Because they gave me shark skin.
They gave him shark skin. So he'll always say, give me some fin. But see, we've locked arms because we're a team. And this young man and myself and my wife and our organization, our entire board of directors, our Dr. Vance, who's our doctor and oversees all the therapy at our organization, our nonprofit, all of the people involved, from our members in California and Washington and the people throughout the world that are involved in this organization, and our other board of directors and all the groups that they manage and own in different aspects. These people, we're all moving as one team. And that is our goal, is to find the Tyes in this world and to try to stop them. So Ty is now being trained by me, personally being mentored, to how to be a seminar speaker, to how to share his story as he's doing today, so that he can come with me on speaking engagements and we can tour the globe and try to stop the next Ty, as I'm trying to stop the pain and suffering from my friend Eric to the next. He's trying to do the same to the next. And that's what we're doing. Now, you answered the question how they can help. You can help by helping us build the next Jonathan's Refuge, folks. If you want to hear this kind of success story, stop sending your money to a bunch of places. I hate to say this. Ty and me, we've talked about this. There's churches that have manicured yards. Like their yards in the building, and the shed is brand new, and they have the $80,000 van. Like literally, you drive down most churches, they got that Mercedes long van that they can go pick up people in. I'm not picking on them, but yet I am picking on them because they spent a ton of money. And just like the nonprofits, like the Salvation Armies and the Red Crosses and all these groups, they got all these huge organizations putting out millions of dollars in salaries and payroll. And yet they're not really giving 100% of it to the people. And this organization, you can help us. Donate your house to us. If you donate your house, it'll be called, as an example, Ty lives in a house that's named after Noreen and Chuck Robbins' Home of Hope, another Jonathan's Refuge, because a lady named Mama Noreen and Papa Chuck, the retired sheriff of Pierce County, Washington, they donated the money for us to open the first refuge. So the home is named after them. Ty wants to open a home someday so that he'll put the down payment down so that he can have it named after him, he said. He wants to have he got his own design. He's like, so I want to do it this way, do this. And I was like, this is your vision now. And he's like, absolutely. So he wants to make a lasting change. Join fins with Ty. Grab arms with Ty. And lock in with this young man as he leads this organization to the next level. Help Ty accomplish his dream. Help him open the next Ty Shaw Home of Hope. Another Jonathan's Refuge. His dream. This is his dream. Help him reach his dream. Now, the second question that we need to ask is simply this. What if you're looking at the people out there that might be saying, I'm interested in coming to the refuge, Now, you know me. I'm a tough guy. I'm not easy to deal with. I'm blunt and in your face, but as you've learned, that's how we have to be to get people to make real change. I don't sugarcoat anything. I call it like it is. End of story. And that can offend a lot of people sometimes. But I've never cared about offending the world around me as much as I care about the person. I didn't care about offending Tiye when I mentioned the nubs. I knew that Tiye needed to be talked to in a way that would shock him because everyone else just, let's just say it, they just kind of danced around the issue. Let's not get too deep. No, I want to get deep. I want to get into this junk. I want to get into the garbage. I want to get him to puke it all out on the table, and I want to look at it, and I want to get into the mess with him. And I want to show him that I'm here for the long run. As a person that has come through the Refuge program, successfully running through the program, forget the fact that we put a ton of money into our men. You know, like you talked about earlier, the events, the mountaineering, we pay for all that stuff for them that they can't afford to get the gear. We got it all here so they can, come in and we give them the gear and they load up and off they go, right? But think of it in this respect, Tiye. What would you like to tell the person right now saying, I'm thinking of coming to the Jonathan's Refuge. I think this could help me. What would you say to that young man right now?
I would say that it would definitely help. I would say that with the knowledge that JB has shared with me, I've heard what he has said about naturally boosting the serotonin and other feel-good chemicals in your mind just by walking. And one day I forgot to pick up my medication, and that turned into 5 days. And not taking my medication for that long, I finally picked it up that weekend, and started taking it again. And I just felt super, super depressed. It was that moment that caused me to be in this mess. And I didn't want to go. I didn't want to have that moment again. So I decided I'm going to do a little bit of research, and I'm just going to take myself off that medication because apparently it got out of my system, and trying to manage myself wasn't working. And so I stopped taking my meds, and I started going on all these hikes. I started walking every day to the store, and I was feeling happy. I was feeling delightful, and
How have you been since then?
I've been great. I'm going to school now. I'm helping JB run his company and
Our company.
our company.
I want to put a disclaimer out. If you're taking medications for antidepressants, psychotic lapses, any kind of a medication,
Talk to your
even though
doctor.
you just heard Tiye tell you he chose, he didn't call me and say, hey, JB, I want to stop doing this. I would have said, no, we need to talk to Dr. Vance. We need to go through the sessions, have him see if it's something you should do or not do. So I would need to make sure I disclose that to you. Tiye is telling you something that he did on his own without
Yep.
my advice nor permission.
I didn't talk to JB. I didn't talk to my doctor.
The organization doesn't advise that,
I didn't talk to anybody but Tiye.
but Tiye did it. And I believe what you're saying, am I correct, is that our program with all the out activities that we do, from outdoors events, taking you guys to the Mariners games, going on boating outings, going out to the lakes, going to barbecues every month, having weekly meetings at the house where we come to you guys and pour in potluck dinners, all of these things, mentoring you, taking you to other places where other men and women can mentor you guys. I know Terry, one of my co-grandparent with my wife, she's our co-grandparent. Terry loves Tiye, and she sure has taken a liking to him. So she'll even come and be like, hey, can I help Tiye? She wants to drive Tiye to run his errands sometimes because he doesn't have a car right now, and he needs these things. So sometimes, he's like, I don't want to be a burden. So he'll go walk 4 miles to get his groceries, and you'll see him with his nubs out like this with grocery bags hanging, and here's Tiye just chugging along, smiling, loving life. So there's a lot of ways that you can get involved to help. you really touched a chord today. I know we just broad stroked it. I understand there's so much more we could have gone into, and we will more. And as the years go by, you guys are going to hear Ty's story continually as he gets better and grows. But Ty, is there anything else you would like to share with everybody right now? Is there anything else as we end this recording?
Well, I can't really think of anything.
Let me ask you this question then. Love. Did any of those other group homes say I love you?
Nope. I can't remember. I'm never saying that.
I love this man. Ty is a blessing. And one of the things that Ty now does, I watch, is how we believe in modeling, mentoring. I don't tell Ty to do something. I show Ty how to do it. So Ty, as we wrap this up, you've all heard how you can help Ty. Feel free, please. Hop on, donate money, put under the cause Ty Shaw, and it'll go to Ty's hands and his vehicle. But if you want to make a bigger impact in Ty's life, why don't you put up the money for the first down payment for Ty Shaw's Home of Hope for another Jonathan's Refuge. That'll stand your name along with Ty's. You can put your name along with Ty's and say, I want to be part of that legacy with Ty Shaw. I want to help change the world so that no more Ty Shaws have to go and try to kill themselves by fire. That no other Jonathan has to be beaten senseless. That no other, Cam has to go to prison. That no other person has to, that they have hope. And that's what we are here. We are hope dealers. We deal in hope, but our hope comes with reality, facts. We change their lives. We put our money where our mouth is, don't we?
I'd say so.
You've seen it. You tell them. I mean, we don't skimp out. This isn't, hey guys, we get rich having you in that house. We lose money on the house. It just pays the bills. It pays the mortgage, okay? So there's no profit in it. We don't care about a profit. As long as it covers the mortgage, that's all we care about. And it covers the mortgage. We care about the person, the mind, the body, and the spirit. And we work on all three, the mind, the body, and the spirit. And he has seen this now for over a year, and he's one of my biggest supporters and fans. But what he doesn't realize is I'm actually probably his biggest supporter, and I'm definitely his biggest fan. So I get the autographs first before he becomes world famous. And before any of you try to ask, the first book of the printing of his story, I get the autograph copy. Sorry. Ty, thank you for letting me delve into your past. Thank you for letting me ask some hard questions. I look forward to doing another one of these interviews with you.
Definitely.
We love you guys. God bless.